you're a natural at this, so don't worry. I even have some stuff that I'm looking at as I try to give Genevieve new video content on a budget that I shot with you guys before in that long thing. I can still use some of that from you for other things too. So, so don't feel like you have to do it all. But okay. I want you to answer this as if you're starting. When I say, what do you like about child advocacy? What I like about child advocacy, sort of answer the question, like, because you're going to be separate from me. I don't expect to have an audio track on some of this or any of it, unless necessary. So first of all, tell us what you do at Child Advocates. What's your role, your title?
Hi. Wait, should I look at the camera?
Look at me.
Look at you? You don't have to say hi. Because we'll bring you can say your name, but you don't have to say
Okay. Yeah. Should I say my name?
Yeah, I want you to say your name, your title, what you do. Tell us what you do at Child Advocates. What is your role and your title?
Okay. I am Rachel Valensky. I'm the director of the Direct Representation Program at Child Advocates. We represent older youth in the child welfare system who are going through a very traumatic experience, often being removed from their families, from their parents, and we provide them legal counsel.
What makes this so unique for Child Advocates to do this? Are others doing this in the state?
Well, in Indiana, children do not have
Can you say what's unique for Child Advocates? So
okay.
Here you say.
What's unique for Child Advocates is that in Indiana, children do not have a right to an attorney, but Child Advocates is doing whatever we can to make sure that children who request an attorney or judges who appoint us on cases, those children have good, well-trained, qualified counsel to represent their expressed interest. So basically making sure that the children know what their rights are and then making sure that what the children want, and normally older youth wants, is legally represented to the judge.
Why is it important for children to have a voice in the child welfare system and for their future?
So it's important for youth to have a voice in their future in the child welfare system because the person most impacted by the child welfare case is the child. And we often kind of discard what they want. We think that, oh, they're kids, they don't know. But really, they're the ones who have lived through the trauma. They unfortunately have seen the abuse that is occurring in their home. And so when we tell them, you know, you're the most important person, but then we don't listen to what their opinion is. They know if they want to see their families, if they feel comfortable seeing their parents. They know if they want to see their siblings. They know if they don't have enough clothing in the foster home. But if no one's asking them these questions, telling them what their rights are, we're not placing their opinion in front of the judge, placing their position in front of the judge and other parties, and making sure that what they want is as equally considered as all the other parties in the case.
How has it been before? Who got attorneys?
So in the current child welfare system, parents are afforded legal counsel. It is a right, if they can't afford their own attorney, that the judge will appoint them an attorney. In Indianapolis, CASAs or guardian ad litems also have attorneys through their office. Throughout the state, many guardian ad litems and CASAs also are able to have attorneys through their own county agencies. And then, of course, the child, who is their own party, right? They have their own wants, their own needs, their own thoughts, their own positions, and their own rights. And it's the child that does not have a lawyer in Indiana. And I really think we have to let other people know that Indiana is an outlier in this. Almost every other state in the United States ensures that children of all age have some kind of counsel, whether that counsel is a best interest attorney or whether that counsel is what we do, which is a child-directed or expressed interest attorney. Either way, that child has their statutory and federal rights protected by an attorney, except in Indiana. These youth in Indiana almost are never provided attorneys in the child welfare system outside of our program.
How does that make you feel?
Well, I feel like children are not told about their rights. They don't have the opportunity to assert their rights because they're not told. So we have a legislature in Indiana that did provide children, foster children, a variety of rights. A right to be present in court, a right to cross-examine and call their own witnesses, a right to have sibling visits, and a right to family integrity, right? So it's not just the parent's right to have their children, but it's a child's right to be with their parent. And that can only be, trumped by a safety concern. But we don't provide these youth with even knowledge of their rights, let alone an ability to assert their rights. I think it's a total, I think it's a fault in our system. I think it's a disservice to children in Indiana. I think we have children having worse outcomes because they don't have a legal representative. And I think above all, we have youth who have no idea what's going on in their case, and the system itself is causing them more trauma because they feel so disconnected from what's going on.
Yeah, I hear you. That's so true. When you think about impact, is there a story you want to share, or just generally how you've seen this program impact children in the child welfare system?
Well, there's two different ways to kind of look at the success that we've had. One way is financial impact. That's not why I got into this work. I didn't get into this work to save DCS dollars or save state dollars. But at the end of the day, every single taxpayer in Indiana is paying a lot of money to the Department of Child Services to care for children, and especially children removed from their home, and especially children in locked private residential facilities, foster children that we place. There are 18 facilities in Indiana that are licensed to take children as young as 6 years old, and they are locked facilities. And they cost about $500-$600 a day. So whenever we are able to prevent a child from going to a locked facility, let's say DCS wants the child in the facility, but we're able to find a family friend or family, or able to argue for reunification with the parent over being in a facility, that's a success. It's a success for the child because they're not put under further trauma that comes from being in a locked facility. And it's a success financially for all of us as taxpayers. It's well over $100,000 that we save whenever that happens. But specifically in the last year, probably my biggest success personally was a client who was very well bonded with her foster parents. And DCS did not agree with her staying with her foster parent long term. They did not want her to be reunified. Unfortunately, reunification with her family was not an option. But they had found a kind of long lost relative that she didn't really know. And she continued to tell me, I do not feel comfortable with this relative that I didn't even know. I want to stay with my foster family, who at that point she'd lived with for well over a year. And, of course, normally we want children to be with family, but we cannot discount what the child feels, who they're bonded with, how they emotionally connect with people. And she continued to say, I can do visits with my aunt, but I just cannot, I don't feel comfortable living there. And so month after month, I argued for her to stay with her foster family and had her write legal briefs and argument and testimony. And the judge very much agreed with our position and the child's position. And she was adopted soon after the ruling that allowed her to stay with her foster mom. And she's currently, no longer a foster child at all. And she's with her adoptive parent.
Have you seen it change her life?
Oh, she was just immediately relieved. What we don't understand is the trauma of just being in the system. And I'm not saying it's the judge's fault or DCS's fault. It's no one's fault. It's the very fact.
I'm not saying it's DCS. Most people will know what that is if you're standing alone.
Department of Child Services.
I'm not saying that there.
I'm not saying it's the Department of Child Services' fault or the judge's fault, but being in the system in and of itself causes stress and possibly trauma to the child. So when she realized she would no longer be in the system, no longer have to have the Department of Child Services visiting her and the stress of where she's going to live, and honestly, I don't mean baggage in a bad way, but just her history and what she went through with her biological family. Once she was able to move forward from that, it's just, you could see a lightness. And she, sent me a Christmas ornament, and it was just a really important case because it really changed her life. And so whenever we have those, sometimes you win a trial, or sometimes you, have other outcomes, but this one truly changed her whole life.
Why do you do this work? What made you want to be a child advocate?
I want to be a child advocate at this office because I saw the injustice in the system where many children from the delinquency side are given lawyers. Well, all children on the delinquency side are given lawyers, and then foster children are not. Yet they both are often placed in locked treatment residential facilities, which really end up just being locked facilities where they live for 9 to 12 months, if not longer. And I cannot understand how we can remove children from their homes and place them in facilities and not give them lawyers. To me, that's like lawyering 101. When you remove somebody from their home, you impact their liberty, due process rights come into place, and you have to give them a lawyer.
My panel is turned off. I want you to just say when you remove.
Okay.
Let me make sure that's again. Go ahead.
When you remove somebody from their home, you're impacting their liberty, and so due process rights are implicated, and you have to give them a lawyer. This is just like law school 101. Yet in Indiana, we remove children from their home all the time, and we don't provide them with legal counsel, and I think it's a violation of due process.
That's why you're a child advocate?
That's why I'm a child advocate.
Excellent. Last question. As a nonprofit, we rely on the generosity of donations to help us serve children. Why do you think businesses, foundations, individuals should support the work we do?
We currently are receiving referrals and appointments to represent children in the child welfare system. So that means somebody has looked at a case, normally an adult, often a judge, and determined that this child, this older youth, needs an attorney. And we are at a point where we are turning them away. We have youth who are being asked to reunite with family that very much abuse them, and the youth do not feel comfortable. But they don't get legal representation because we simply do not have capacity at this point. And we have other cases where kids, all they want to do is be home with their families. But for some reason, some technicality, whatever it is, they can't be. And we can't argue and try to help and try to impact other legal proceedings that might allow this child to go home with their families, because we do not have capacity right now to take on these kids. So now more than any other time since I started at this office, we have a crisis that we have all of these youth, and we're just adding them to the wait list or turning them down. It's terrible.
I can feel that. So what should people do to help?
Well, I'm hopeful that people will donate, people will, really find ways that they can get with other family members or friends and build a collection, because at this point, we absolutely need more attorneys and support staff in our office. And, for my position as the director of the Direct Representation Program, of course, I want funding for my program. But then I listen to attorneys from mediation and attorneys from immigration. And I just know that all of our programs are really starting to turn down cases and really in a crisis, because we cannot serve the need in our community, and children are going to be worse off because we cannot help them.
You're such a good person. Let me ask you very quickly, I forgot, this is for another video, since I can get a little longer interview with you real quickly. Leo, we were chosen. We're doing unique research. Talk about how unique it is and what you're doing, and what Leo is. Right.
So about a year and a half ago, the Notre Dame Lab for Economic Opportunity, or we call it Notre Dame's LEO, they approached us asking us to apply for a research study that they're doing. So LEO really focuses on how to positively impact homelessness or decrease homelessness. And they, because of other research that has been done, believe that attorneys for children can impact homelessness and ensure that children exiting the foster care system are less likely to be homeless. We know that foster kids have the worst outcomes of any group, any population, and so we really want to make sure that they have stable housing when they're out of their system, and they have educational goals, and they have employment goals, and they have, somebody in their life who can positively impact them. So we did apply for the research study. We were chosen, and the last year was just working with researchers to figure out how to put a research study together. And for a lawyer, it was kind of fun for me to work with researchers because their brains work so uniquely in, statistical analysis and After about a year of putting it together, we launched the study last November, slowly adding counties, pretty much adding a county every month. So right now we are in 6 different counties with the research study, and judges appoint us on cases, and then we're comparing the randomly selected cases that we are appointed to versus the randomly selected cases that we're not appointed to, and we're going to be looking at the different outcomes. And when I say we, I mean the Notre Dame researchers, who are much more able to statistically determine differences in outcomes. They'll be analyzing that data.
What are they hoping to find? What are you hoping to find?
We hope to find that children who have attorneys are in the child welfare system less time. So we say that there's less time to permanency. So their outcome, whatever the outcome is, whether it's adoption or reunification or guardianship, that outcomes comes faster, because we know that children who linger in the child welfare system are less well off. They have worse outcomes, and it's just not helpful to be in the system that long. So that's our primary data point, but we also are hoping that children are more likely to be reunified with family if they have a lawyer. You know, at the end of the day, family first, family's best. We want children who can be safe with their parents, with their family, to be with their parents and family. So that would be our second data point that we are hoping for. And then, of course, just other outcomes like less placement moves, less school moves, more contact with siblings, better educational outcomes. So we'll be looking at all of that as well.
Excellent. Last thing I need you to say is look at the camera over here
This one.
and say, I want you to say, join us, be a child advocate. Some form of that.
Okay, this is what Kelly struggled with. I saw it. Okay. Join us, be a child advocate.
Good.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Okay. The story that I just told about the ant,
Uh-huh.